Hello, everyone. This is Sean Smith, and you are tuned in to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. The podcast that will connect you to resources regionally and nationwide to engage them and you in open, honest discussions so that we can inspire the growth that you need to chase the experience you want. So strap yourself in because here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. I'm Sean Smith, and on the other line is co-host Sam. Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing pretty good. The weather's heating up. Tags are coming out.
That they are. Hey, these guys are pretty privileged right now. They've got 2 in a row with us together now. We've got,
you talk about spoiled. You can't get any more spoiled than that.
It's a privilege to be able to listen to the both of us talk for for an hour about a bunch of nonsense. And they got 2 episodes in a row now.
Absolutely. And, I think I've said it before in the past. Corey Jacobson and Randy Newberg have made a pile of money off of going down rabbit holes. So why can't we?
Hey, we might as well try that. Apparently it's a winning equation. So we might as well try it.
Why not?
Might as well give her a try. So what has been going on? Like, there's some, well, I already know, but there's some recent news that's out there. And, I don't want to get down any legal discussions, so we'll kind of not skirt along those because, as you heard in Ohio, that CJ Alexander, he's been indicted for shooting that buck. He's got, I think, 23 different charges. And from what I'm reading, it sounds like not only did he get charged, but his girlfriend got charged. And also at least one of his friends got charged. So I will be interested to see how that case turns out, but I don't know.
Yeah, man, that's an interesting one. And, innocent until proven guilty and allegedly this and allegedly that. Just some word of advice to the kid, man. Quit running your mouth on the internet.
Yeah, that would be
I'm sure your lawyer's telling you the same thing.
Right.
Like, quit running your mouth on the internet. If you're innocent, the court will help you. Well, the court won't help you, but your case will prove itself. Let the legal things come to light that are in your favor and let your lawyers do the work that they do if you didn't do anything wrong. And if you did, then, it's going to work against you. And if the allegations are true, then you deserve all of it.
Yeah. And I will probably second that. That's probably true. The state has to be able to prove their case, right? They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this took place, or at least for all the charges, all 23 charges. I don't know what evidence has been collected. I don't know any of that. I have not asked. I don't, trying to stay as neutral as possible. But I agree, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. And I also agree with you that the young man needs to just stop with the social medias. He needs to stay off a podcast. He needs to stay off these things and wait till everything is done and then go from there. Because if you are found, let's put it this way, like, you're going to look like the world's largest ass if you are found guilty of any of these charges. And you've been going around, projecting yourself as being innocent this entire time. Now, you're going to look like the world's largest ass. And trust me, like, if you are found innocent of everything, you're going to have your heyday. Like, hey, listen, and I've said it before, like, if you are innocent of things, like, I will root for you. Like, I'm a law enforcement officer by trade. My number one goal is not to put innocent people in jail. There was a judge that I, had been in his courtroom a few times, obviously, to hear cases of mine. And he had a very famous saying that, I would rather let 10 guilty people go than send one innocent person to jail. So he was uber liberal. And I kind of agree with him, like, on that. Like, yeah, I understand it's my job, but at the same time, like, I don't want to send an innocent person to jail. So I want to make sure that I do my part to make sure that the evidence that's presented is true, accurate, and collected in a professional way. that is in line with our Constitution. And so that if you are convicted of it, there's no doubt in my mind that you were guilty of it.
Absolutely. And as they say, sunlight's the best disinfectant. So once all the facts are out and all the records are produced and the jury has reached their verdict, we'll finally, we'll know, but
right,
because that's how that system works.
well,
But,
that's even
it's just, it's kind of making everybody, at least me, a little antsy to like, let's get to it. Let's get to it. And we all know that's not how the legal process works.
no, and sometimes that's by design. I don't, I will say this, like, the first and foremost, there may not even be a trial, right? One of the options that could happen here is there could be a plea bargain that's made between the two parties involved, between the state and the accused, where they'll agree to certain charges. They may not say that they're guilty of them, but they'll go ahead and accept them in lieu of other things. So the legal system honestly likes to see plea bargains happen because it's the quickest way to kind of resolve things, and it's one of the cheaper ways to resolve things for the state. Now back to that. What I was going to say, if I remember. But yeah, so they do have a right to a speedy trial, and this is where I wanted to go. Like you do have the right to a speedy trial. But most of the time, and here's the little thing that happens, most of the time, defense attorneys, they're the ones that really actually stretch most of these trials out because they're hoping that as time goes by, the memory of, witnesses or officers or whoever's involved, who would be testifying against his client is not going to be quite as sharp as it would have been, on a speedy trial. So sometimes they like to drag these things out. And there's a lot of steps that still has to happen here. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of suppression hearings, especially if there's a lot of like really damning evidence. There's going to be a lot of suppression hearings in hopes of getting that evidence suppressed. I've sat in on a couple of suppression hearings myself on some of my cases, and it's an interesting process. It really is. And you know what, by time it's all said and done, like I said, if the young man is innocent, then I hope he gets to walk free and enjoy his deer. Like, unfortunately, like if he is innocent, that deer is probably going to be forever tainted for him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I can see exactly what you mean, waiting for a trial, at least by the defense. I don't have any background in law enforcement. I don't have any background in the judicial system. I have the background as a citizen doing my civic duty, and I was called in for jury duty. I've only been summoned once, and I got to sit in one. So
you poor thing.
It was an interesting process, but the case that I got to sit in on was from 2 years prior, and you could tell it had definitely affected the memory of not only the defense, but also, the prosecution involved as well. And it was very interesting to watch that process play out and then be able to deliberate and come to our verdict just based on the evidence and the facts that we had gathered by both parties.
Yeah. And that's, I'm not saying our legal system is perfect, but it's one of the better ones out there. As long as it's upheld to the Constitution and it's not used as a weapon. And
absolutely.
And you and I talked a little bit about this prior to getting on the air, but I will not talk about it any more than just that. Is that if used the way it's supposed to be done and not as a weapon, then our legal system is one of the best in the world, and that's where I'm gonna leave it at. So, but CJ, good luck to you. I mean, if you are innocent, good luck to you. State of Ohio, if he's guilty, good luck to you. Like I'm neutral on this, but I do believe that I do believe in the fundamentals of the Constitution. That the young man is innocent until proven guilty, and I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of ostracizing him just quite yet until he's actually found guilty of something. And that's not just because of a media thing. Like I really truly feel that way. I have not been involved in the case. I don't really know any of the facts of the case other than what's circulating around in third party media outlets, which then again, you get in the telephone game there to where what the original message was is not what it was being presented by the time it gets out there. So once again, once again, I'll just leave it at that. I guess another legal thing that's happening here, and the only thing I really want to say on this, folks, is if you are from Colorado and you're going to be voting on this exact issue, and I think most people know what this issue is the ban of hunting cougar. What is it? Cougar, lynx, and I get
I'll stop you there, and we'll get into we can't really get too deep into it because I'm not super versed, but the bill is a ban on trophy hunting in Colorado. They're trying to outlaw the hunting of bobcats and mountain lions.
Mm-hmm.
They throw lynx in on top of that just to get everybody in their fields. You are not allowed to hunt lynx in Colorado. You never have. Well, I can't say you never have been, but since the North American model of conservation has come around, it has not been a target species.
No.
And they're using the trophy hunting vernacular to get everybody in their feelings. In the state of Colorado, any animal you harvest, you are required to, or any big game animal, you are required to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Basically obtain all of the edible parts of the animal.
Yes.
And process them for food.
Yes, you guys do have a waste and wanton law. I come to find out Ohio does not have one of those. Because I asked I asked about, and apparently we do not have one. So, but anyways, Colorado does have one, and you do have to remove as much edible meat, all the edible meat that you can from the animal. You can't just leave the carcass laying there and just take what you would call the trophy parts of the animal out. But I'm going to leave it at this. Like, I don't know much about the bill. I've heard some speculations from a couple different organizations like HOW and a few others, right? The only thing I ask is that folks, make sure you read over the bill and read what it actually says and actually educate yourself before you vote on not just this bill, but any bill, because there's a big push right now to touch people at their feelings and get people to vote based upon their feelings. And that never in the history of ever has feelings been objective. They've always been subjective. And you need to objectively look at this. Like, you need to be able to pull yourself enough. Like, I'll put it this way. Like, think of it like bifocals, right? And I don't know how many people actually wear, or how you people, what do you mean you people? I don't know how many of you wear, I don't know how many of you wear bifocals out there, but you have the one set of the glasses where it's meant for like up close, the other set that's meant for far away. You're going to have to look at it like from the far away perspective, get your feelings out of it, look at it from a far away perspective. What is this law actually doing, and what is it setting itself up to do? Don't be afraid to actually listen to a side of the argument that you normally wouldn't listen to. Hear what they have to present. And I'm telling that to hunters too. Listen to what the other side has to say. Whether you believe in it or not, at least hear it, right? And I also say this, I also say this to the non-hunters or the anti-hunters. At least listen to what the other side has to say, right? Because both sides are probably making a valid point somewhere. I'm not saying they're all valid, but there's a valid point somewhere that they're making.
And for a society that just came off of COVID I can't say just came off of anymore. It's been 4 years. But for a society that has fairly recently come off of a quote unquote epidemic, however you feel about it,
right.
For a lot of people that want to follow the science, it seems like a large group of people out there don't want to follow the science when it comes to wildlife management. This is work that should be done by biologists for the greater good. This shouldn't be, everybody's going to pound you over the head with it. They already do. The buzz term ballot box biology, it should be actual base science. And we have a healthy population of lions, and now we have wolves coming in, and food sources that here for, once the wolves actually establish reasonable populations, food sources are going to get low for all the predators out there, and that's going to turn into potentially dangerous situation for, not even just hunters and fishers, but for just regular citizens living in the suburbs, because they're going to be pushed and forced to find other food sources. And whether you like it or not, those food sources might be living in your backyard.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, and it does happen. But anyways, so please, I agree with you 100%. Like, this is meant for like actual scientific based, let the biologist decide what needs to be done, right? Let the commission decide what needs to be done, following the recommendations of the biologist, right? Stay keep your
I'd tilt my head a little bit at the commission's recommendations depending on where you're at.
right.
But
No, I get that, but like I said, that's why I kind of give it the qualifier of based upon the biologist's like recommendations, right?
yeah,
You know, but in the end, folks, all we can ask is that you actually educate yourself on the bill and what is actually being asked, because there is some stir out there that this is actually putting a definition to what trophy hunting is, and that could be a bad thing, not just in Colorado, but around the country. So,
well, not just trophy hunting. I believe, now don't quote me on it, I believe there's a section in this bill that would put vernacular into the system that you can't hunt with dogs, and that includes your waterfowl dog.
Yeah. So, guys, gals, it's not just a hunter problem. It's not just a lion hunter problem. It's not just a bobcat hunter problem. It is an everybody problem. Pay attention to this, even if you are a non-hunter. Pay attention to this, because it is important for us to see it is important for us to make sure that we manage wildlife responsibly. And I will say this. There is a group of people out there who believe that their utopia out there is to allow, and this is why this is, I used to make the argument, and this is why I stopped making this argument, is what I'm about to say. This argument that I used to make was that, you know what, let some of these people actually see what a lion kill looks like, or what a grizzly bear kill looks like, or what a wolf kill looks like. It is not pretty. There's nothing beautiful about it. Like, it is a very violent death for any animal who comes to their end based upon predation. And depending upon the species, most of the prey animals are still alive as they're being eaten. It is not pretty. But here's why I won't use this argument anymore. Is because there is a section of people out there who are anti-hunters, who their utopia is that there are predators on the landscape that are taking care of the excess population, so man is not. Because they truly believe that human beings, should not be out there killing animals. The end, period.
They forget that we're part of the animal kingdom, and it's part of what we've been for millennia, as long as we've existed. Hunting is what has sustained us and kept us going. I mean, we may not always have been the top food chain apex predator, but we certainly have become it. And I can't even say top anymore, because, again, you've got mountain lions and wolves who are far more efficient killers. You've got hunters that go out archery season for elk, or even rifle season for elk, and only 10% of the hunters actually harvest an animal. That's not a high number.
It's not.
It's not a high number, but we also have that human fallacy in us of, well, if I don't get anything, I can go to the grocery store. These animals have become such successful hunters because they don't have the grocery store.
No, they don't. The grocery store is what they catch.
Yes, sir.
And, don't get it twisted, folks. Like, if, I'm not telling you that you need to be a hunter. I'm not telling you that you need to be an anti-hunter. I'm not telling you that, going to the grocery store and getting your food is bad. That's not what we're saying. Like, live the life you want to live. But at the same time, leave other people to live the life that they want to live, as long as it's moral and ethical and, legal. Stay out of it.
Absolutely.
Because
one of my favorite quotes from Chris Rowe about these situations has always been, you'll never reason someone into something they were never reasoned into in the first place. And it rings true across the board, whether it be for hunting or other subjects in life. If you're just, as we discussed earlier, if you're in your feelings and that's how you choose to vote or choose to do certain things, it might not be the best. It might feel good for you at the time, but again, take your time and do the research, get educated.
Yes. And the education, and I'm going to tell you, today's world, you need to work extra hard to look at things that are outside of your comfort zone, because of all the social medias that are out there. Like, let me tell you how this works. You go onto a video, right? And let's say there's two options of videos that are out there. There's an anti-hunting video and there's a hunting video, right? And you select to watch the anti-hunting video, right, over the hunting video. Not that, whatever, right? This could go either way. The next video that they're going to recommend to you is going to be another anti-hunting video. Why? Is because they feel in the algorithm that this is what you want to watch. They're about making sure they make the views so that they make the revenue from the advertising agencies. So they're going to inundate you with stuff that you're going to want to watch. Therefore, what happens is then you start to think that just your perspective is the only one out there, and that's not the case. Please work the extra work to go out there and get outside the box. Because if you don't believe me, look at your feed. What is it? It's all the stuff that you've either looked at already or liked. That's what you're going to be inundated with. You're not going to get a lot that's outside of that. Every now and again, something does, but it's not very often. And I give you a case in point. Like there's a firefighter out there who makes hilarious videos about things he's seen on calls. Like I watched one video of his. Now I guarantee you every third video that pops up on my reels is him. Is one of his videos because I watched one video of his.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
And that's just the case in point of what happens here. So work extra hard to get outside of that, outside of what you normally would watch, and hear the other side. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to agree with them, but hear what they're saying. You know, and I've always argued this, especially in law enforcement, because you want to talk about a group of like bullheaded people. Work with a bunch of law enforcement officers. Like, when somebody challenges our culture, who we are, like, we can circle the wagons and become pretty defensive. I know we can, and I've been trying to listen, there's a couple books out there that we promoted in one of the organizations that I taught for and continue to teach for, that was written by a cop, but it was pretty anti-cop. I'm like, listen, you're not going to like hearing a lot of stuff he has to say there. You don't have to agree with it, but if you're going to make a rational argument against it, you had better understand what he's saying. Or if not, you don't make any rational argument at all. So, but anyways, folks, get out there, learn, make good choices in your ballot decisions. And I'm not saying you guys aren't already. Please don't get all pissed off at Sean saying that I think you're stupid. That's not what I said. What I'm saying is that go out there, educate yourself, and make good choices out there, because it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your children. It's going to affect your grandchildren. It's going to actually affect the landscape in general. So,
and I can't remember who said it, but they said it really well. It's not ours. It's just our turn.
Yeah. It's pretty much what it is. But anyways, that's enough on the legal stuff, unless you have anything else you want to add.
I do not. We could probably go all day about it. But as we said in the beginning, we're not super boned up on it. At least on all the vernacular, we know the cliff notes of it and the highlights.
Right. And I don't want, like I said, I don't want to dive into it a lot. It may sound like we dove into a lot, but we barely just scratched the surface on that. We kind of stayed more philosophical than we did. We did objective in that one. So yeah, just for that reason, I don't know a lot of it right off the top of my head, like right now. But anyways, let's switch gears up. We talked about some doom and gloom. Let's talk about a little bit of some exciting things. And let's talk about a little challenge that I just did not too long ago.
Yeah, let's get into it. I know that you've been a part of Badges and Bows challenges for what now? This is your second year?
Yeah, second year.
And the interviewed, gosh, I'm dropping his name, and I know you're going to be able to tell me. So
it's Jake Mahar. He runs it.
Okay.
Out of Oregon. Yeah, he was actually on the podcast. I think it was episode 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. So it's not too long ago. Great episode. If you have not heard it, please go check it out. Talk about the Badges and Bows competition or challenges that he does every year. Or I think I can't say every year. I think it started last year. This is the second year. So anyways, long story short, what it is that he, on Instagram, he takes entries from people who are law enforcement, first responders, so fire, EMS, military personnel, right? Both, and what's cool is that there's even people that are overseas that are in theater right now that are sending sending over videos and stuff. He can't show some of those, but he's getting some submissions and stuff from people that are overseas, doing these challenges and stuff. So It's really cool. He does 6, I think it's like 5 challenges that he does. This year he changed it up, though. I think he's doing 5 challenges. It's either 5 or 6 challenges. They're 12 days long, the challenges are, or you have a 12-day window to do the challenge, and then he's got a couple side missions he's kind of sprinkling in this year. So the year before, I started it. I was a little late getting to the party, and I started it on the William Tell challenge, which hopefully all of you know what William Tell is. The famous story is that he shot an apple off his son's head at like 100 yards, right?
Okay.
That was way back in the day. So obviously this is mimicking this, and that the challenge is to shoot an apple with your bow, right? And the goal is the person who can shoot the furthest away. So of course everyone starts at like 20 yards and 40, 60, eventually the bar keeps moving back. Well, I ended up winning it last year at shooting an apple at 130 yards last year. And, like that's my personal best. Like I've never, like, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but 130 yards, that's more than the length of a football field. Like,
yeah, that's far, especially for an arrow flying through the air with wind and drag and, my gosh, everything else going on around it.
So this year, Badges and Bows came back. The lineup is almost exactly the same, except for some of the extra little side missions he's got going on. So the first one was the Vegas shoot, which is your typical Vegas round on spots. 300 points is the top score. I ended up scoring a 289. I think I shot that twice. Shot a 289 with my hunting bow, the Matthews V3X 33 with Victory Rip TKO arrows. It is a sport version, so it's the .006 straightness, so it's not even the most expensive ones, right? So basically this is my hunting setup, right? So I shot a 289 with it. I think I got second place in that one. I got beat out by a guy who shoots for Team USA. He's been in the Olympics. He's won quite a few things. He won at 299. So he was 1 point off from a perfect score.
So in pretty good company.
Yeah. So yeah, this guy his name's Sean Vincent. He's from over in the Northwest area. Good dude. I'm highly competitive though. Like probably that's my toxic trait is I'm highly competitive, and I'm not going to just settle with getting my ass beat by somebody just because of you're a professional. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I'm going to strive to try to beat you. Because
absolutely,
that's just who I am.
Motivator.
That's just who I am. So the second challenge came out, and it was what he called the Dirty Dudley. And what this competition was, we are still shooting on spot targets, so it's still the Vegas spot. But this one is, so just follow me along. You shot an arrow from 20, from 30, 40, 50, and then you came back to 40, 30, and 20. So it was 7 arrows altogether. So a top score of 70 is the top score. And they only counted they only counted hits in the 9 and 10 rings. I end up with a 65. So that means I missed.
So hold on. Can I back you up there?
Yeah.
They only counted the hits where now?
In the 8, in the 10 and 9 rings. So.
Okay. So you gotta be dialed in.
So you have to hit the yellow. Yeah. You have to hit the yellow for it to score. And if there's going to be a tiebreaker, it was going to be based off of X's. So in other words, the center of the center, right?
Yep.
So I go up the plate, shoot once, I get like a 48 in it, and I'm like, that's not going to do it. But here's the side why he called it the Dirty Dudley. Before you could even release the arrow, you had to have a 15-second hold at each station before you. So you had to come the full draw and hold for 15 seconds before your arrow was released.
So not only are you sitting there mentally trying to watch your pin float, think about your release as you squeeze, now you have to count in your head 15 seconds. And I'm guessing they're not like super strict on, how you're counting as long as you're getting to relatively that 15 seconds.
Well, yeah, but the only way you can post a video is that you have to do it time lapsed anyways. So yeah, there might be a little bit of fallacy. Some people might be shooting at 12. Right,
because you got guys who are going to count 1,000, 2 1,000, or you got guys that go 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I mean, either way, you have to do some type of a hold before you release the arrow. That was rough.
Yeah,
and I end up shooting a 65 out of that, and I end up winning that one. The closest guy to me, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but the closest guy to me was that professional shooter, and he got a 58. So, anyways.
So you're thinking about dipping your toes into the Olympics?
No, really. I'm not.
Oh.
I've come to find out through these challenges, I am not a spot shooter. I'm not good. I'm not. Although my scores say they're pretty decent, I'm not good at it. Like,
man, circles are hard too. I don't like shooting circles. That like I get more target panic shooting in a circle than I do an animal or foam animal.
Yeah, but so I hear you on that. I don't know if it's necessarily target panic for me. Like, so the way I aim, I'm kind of following like Joel Turner and his train of thought here. And that, once I get to like, I put my pin where in an area I want it to be at, I don't look at the pin anymore. I start looking at where I want to hit. Right. And then that's when I start to go through my shot execution. I just keep pulling, looking where I want it to go. And then it releases on a 3D target. Like, I'm either 10 or 11 ring almost every time doing that. Not all the time, but almost every time. You put me on a spot target, not so much. And they're created. They are technically created to be a little bit harder to aim at, especially those Vegas faces. That yellow, the way they transition is a little bit harder to aim at. But
well, from what I've heard, what can help you get a little, I don't know if it'll help you get better, but a little more consistent is I know a lot of the guys that target shoot will shoot a fatter diameter arrow to break those lines.
Yeah, I know, and.
And you do have a spare bow that you could set up for that.
No, I don't.
No, you got rid of it?
Yeah, I don't have a spare bow anymore. I sold the one I had.
Oh, when did you do that?
My buddy, so Joe Sidoti, I used to work with him. His brother wanted to get into archery, and he's like a single dad and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I'll make you a good deal, and I'm glad I did. Dude's been like full on like head dive right into it. Like he built his own press. Like he's got into it like deep, right? So it was a good sale. Like I told him up front, I said, listen, I want to sell you this bow, but I'm going to preface this. If you go to sell it to somebody, get a hold of me. I'll buy it back off of you. Like because I'm selling it to you at a price that is way less than what the bow's actually worth. And because I'm here to help you out. I did that once with somebody. They turned around and traded that bow in almost immediately on another bow. Like, they no sooner walked out of my house, they went and traded in on another bow. I'm like,
geez,
that's not why I'm
helping somebody out, doing something fairly nice out of your soul.
Right. And the libertarian in me, I'm not overly libertarian, but the libertarian in me says, hey, listen, it's his bow. He can do whatever he wants with it at that point. Right. But the Sean in me says, dude, I just sold you that at like some ridiculously low price because I'm helping you out. And then you go and do that. Like, if you're going to do that, then here's your $200 back. Let me have my bow back.
Well, if you are looking for a spare bow, I know a guy selling one.
Yeah, I know a guy too, but
and it's a fairly reasonable price. I'll cut you a heck of a deal because I know the arrows aren't going to fit your draw line.
Right.
But it will come with 2.5 iron well broadheads. The half is because the one's a practice head.
It's 2.5. 2.5. Hey, Marty at Iron Will, how do you get to 2.5?
Listen, I just told you how I got to 2.5.
I know. I heard you. Like, how do you get 2.5 broadheads? But so I end up winning that one. The sidebar one, this is kind of funny. So the sidebar one, the first one is that you had to shoot at the bolt, another bull target again, the spot target again at 40 yards from your knees. One shot, Now you could shoot it multiple times, but it was one shot at a time, right? The goal is the person who gets it closest to the center wins it, right? So this guy, he actually does like really well. Like he shoots one that's like, it's an X ringer, right? Doesn't hit the X, but it's an X ringer, right? Good shot, right? So then Sean Vincent, turns his in and he ends up like a little bit closer, right? And so everyone's like, oh, well, this one's over. I'm like, I didn't hear no fat lady. I go out there, shoot it. I literally hit the X. Like, I'm like, if you think of the X, it's kind of more of a plus sign. I basically, if you look at the like lower right part of that plus sign, my arrow's buried in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I didn't hear no fat lady, and I turned it in, right? Well, he goes out and he's got one that's touching the plus sign too. I'm not going to admit that it's closer than mine, but it's definitely going to be a judgment call between the two of us. And that's just the competitor in me, man. I'm not going to just roll over, because I want to win, and if you beat me, I want you to beat me, right? I'm not going to roll over and just be beaten. This is something like, if this is a marathon run, then go run. I'm not doing it, right? But this is something I'm pretty passionate about, and I will compete in this one.
Which is fun too, because the guy on the other end is just as competitive, has the same mental attitude towards it as you do, and that's what keeps it fun, keeps it interesting, and keeps it tight.
It does. And it honestly, I don't know. There's like a few people that haven't been putting entries in this year that normally would have, and I don't know what the cause of that is. And I hope, and I'm not, guys, if you hear this, please don't take this the wrong way. I don't know if they're just getting deflated, because the Sean Vincent's good. Like, he's really good. Like, he's dropping stuff that is really good. And, I don't know if people are just getting deflated and they're not trying. I'm like, guys, just at least try. Like, at the end of the day, like, you're going to be better. Like, it's not, even if you don't win, you'll be better, because you've pushed yourself to something that's outside your comfort zone. And, it's at least you're getting reps at something that is a little bit harder or a little bit smaller than the kill zone of an animal that you're chasing after. You know what I mean? And you're going to be a better archer because of it in the end. So just get out there, just even submit your stuff. Get out there, submit your stuff, try it, work it, you see how it works out for you. And, I guess that's my challenge to any of them, that's part of the competition or any competition. Just go out there and go. It doesn't matter if you win or not. At the end of the day, I really don't care if I win or not either. I'm out there competing because I'm trying to become better myself, and I'm pushing myself, which,
for sure.
Which, talking about pushing, I may have been talking a little shit earlier in the competition, saying that when the William Tell comes around, I'm going for 200. I hit 130 last year. I've got the room to shoot 200 here at my property. I'm going to go for it. I don't know if I'm going to hit it. I have no idea, but I'm going for it.
What's the worst that happens?
Right?
Yeah, don't. And oh no, you're not out anything.
So lo and behold, William Tell is the next official challenge that comes out, and that's what we're shooting. And we just finished a William Tell. I think yesterday was the last day for entries for it. And so somebody starts us off at 60. Good shot, good solid shot. I mean, a 60-yard shot for anybody on an apple-sized target is a good shot. The end. Like, if you can hit an apple at 60 yards with your bow, you're a pretty damn good archer, right?
I mean, there are guys out there that are questionable at 60 yards with a rifle. So
right. Yeah, with a bow. That's good. That is really good, right? So he hits 60. I go back to 70. I hit 70 about the same time that someone else hit 70, right? So there's two of us that's got 70 hits now, right? Or 70-yard hits. So I go ahead and jump back to 100. I get a 100-yard hit. And it was not the first time I shot it. Like, it took a couple arrows for me before I hit the apple. So I got the 100-yard hit, and then I was working at a 120, right? And well, about this time, somebody in the competition, the guy who's running it, may or may not have called me out saying I was going to shoot 200. I said, okay then. And so I marched the target out to 200 yards, found my 200-yard line, and I started working on it. If you know anything about anything about sights, my sight, the lowest that I can get my sight to is about 121 yards. That's the furthest distance I can dial in on my sight.
So you're taking that pin and just basically putting it on the horizon in best judgment.
So let me tell you, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. But let me tell you how I work this out. So obviously at 200 yards, I'm not going to be able to actually aim with a pin at the apple or thereabouts, because you can't see the apple from 200 yards anyways, right? I can barely see the target, which is one of those Delta McKenzie zombie targets. I have an apple sitting on top of his head. I'm literally doing I am literally doing the William Tell, right? I am shooting an apple off of a air quotes human head, right? It's a zombie target, folks. It's not a real person. Anyways, so
And you know what they say? If you hit that zombie target in the head.
Exactly why I didn't use live people. Anyways, so so the way this worked out is so I think all right, so first session I had to work out what my elevation was going to be. So I have the target set out there, and behind the target is a tree. I have a tree. There's a tree line, and so I'm finding certain points on trees that to aim at, right? So I finally find something that's close, right? It's almost at the very tip top of the tree. So I let a few arrows go, and I'm really close, but my elevation is just a little off. And I think
down.
It was a little low. So I went ahead and dialed but I had a good aim point. The way it was like at the tip top of the tree, there was like a certain like little teeny tiny little branch with some leaves on it that was kind of poking out of the actual natural line. That gave me a really good point of reference. So I went ahead and just dialed my scope down just a little bit more because I had it set at like 100 yards. So I dialed it down a little bit more, did a few more shots, got closer, right? The elevation got a little bit better, but it still wasn't right. So I dialed down a little bit more. And then all of a sudden I was starting to imprint, around the apple, right?
Right.
So now I have my elevation dialed in. As long as I did my part during the shot, like I have my elevation dialed in. Left to right, I kind of had figured out too. That one was basically the truth of the matter is I went up the line of the zombie target up to where the apple is and just trying to make the straightest line possible up the tree to where my elevation point was. And then I knew where to aim at.
Okay.
And so from there, that was just the game from there was just, shooting groups of arrows, which spoiler alert on my fourth day of my fourth session. So I did it that one night. I went back out the next morning for a little bit, went out that evening for just a little bit. Actually I think it was the third session now, to be honest with you. I think it was my third session. No, I'm already on third. So yeah, fourth. So first evening, right? And that's when I got my elevation dialed in. Second morning, third evening, and then my fourth was the next morning. And the next morning I hit it.
Man, that's incredible. And you talk about trying to get that left right dialed. Any little thing that you do differently, especially at 200 yards with a bow, and you can see it when you're back to 50 yards, any little thing that you do different with a bow, you can see even if the wind blows a little too hard this way or that way. I mean, there's so many variables as we talked about earlier with your 130 yards last year?
Yes, 130 last year.
Yeah, I mean, and then to back it out to 200, I mean, you got to have just right conditions, enough patience even to just muster through that.
It was a patience game. So just the slight little bit of difference in your grip pressure or your release or just even your aim, is going to result in a much bigger miss than, what it would be at like 20 or 30 or 40, right?
Oh, it's going to magnify every flaw that you have.
Oh, tell me about it. So, but I will say this, right? I aim my shot sequence or my shot process is so much cleaner at that distance because I'm not really aiming at something in particular, right? I got an idea. I have an area that I'm aiming at, right? And I'm focusing way more on my shot, how my shot breaks, how I'm pulling through the shot, things like that, right? So my shot's a lot cleaner at that distance. And I'll tell you this, some of the arrows that didn't hit the target, like there was multiple, like at least 3 different groupings of arrows that were touching each other. They may not have been in the target, but they were in the vicinity. It's not like I had to go on some adventure hike to find them. They were close, but they were touching each other at 200 yards. So yes, to the purist out there, like, well, you didn't hit the target, so it doesn't matter. Well, let me rephrase that. To the people who just see it as the results based, like they're like, well, you didn't hit the target, so what does that matter? To the purists out there, I'd be like,
consistency is key.
That's a pretty consistent shot. If those arrows, no, let me say that not only is it a consistent shot, but it's also a consistent arrow build. If those arrows are hitting like that together at that distance,
absolutely.
Yeah. So finally on the fourth attempt, I hit it. It wasn't a glance. It was actually like pretty. It wasn't dead center. It wasn't a glance. It was like the lower third of the apple, but I finally got it. And
it's hitting an apple at 200 yards. I don't think anybody's going to try and take anything away from that.
No, and I will preface this, like, and once again, not to toot my own horn, but like I got to the point to where like a lot of the arrows were hitting, like I was starting to group around the apple. Like it was just going to be a matter of time before it actually happened, because I put one like 2 inches low, right dead nut center of the apple, but it was 2 inches low, hit the zombie in the head, shot the zombie head off. That was the first time I thought I actually hit the apple, because I seen the apple kind of spinning off the target. I didn't know the whole head came off.
It's a good thing you didn't use a human.
Right? I didn't see that. But then I've also had multiple ones that were just like inline. Some of them was inline, left to right inline, but they were like an inch or two high. Right? Or I had some that was like the right height, but they were like 3 to 4 inches off to the right, or maybe a couple inches off to the left. Like just a lot of just bare misses at that distance. And then I had some. Then I had some.
Did that have you kind of stomping your feet as like, I'm right there? Like, come on.
Honestly, I wasn't as bad about it this year as I was last year, because I kind of came into a little bit more confidence because of shooting 130 last year. I did that quite a bit, and that got frustrating. Like I'm right here, but I think with that experience, knowing that just be patient and give it time, keep doing your part, eventually it's going to happen, and it did. So yeah, I have shot an apple at 200 yards with a Matthews V3X 33 using a UV button. And this isn't a commercial for them. I'm just telling you what I was using. UV button. I had gas bowstrings. I was shooting Victory Rip TKO arrows, 250 spine with the stainless steel insert up front, their shock insert up front, 150 grain field point, 3 AAE hybrid 26s on the back, using a Arizona Easy Flex Mini Max to the left. So I got helical to the left. And what else? I think that's about it. And, there's no target shafts. Like even the shafts are like the sports. Like they're not the elites. They're not the gamers. They were the sports. So they're the ones that are sorted at a lower tolerance, or like a 0.006 straightness.
Okay.
So they're a little bit cheaper, which I got that idea from Podium Archer, which is Josh Jones. Well, Podium Archer and also Elk Shape, Dan Staten and Josh Jones of Podium Archer saying, hey, with these victories, like you can buy the elites, the expensive ones, to be your hunting arrows. They're the 0.001 straightness. But the gamers are the exact same arrows. The sports are the exact same arrows. They're just not sorted to the same tolerance, and they're much cheaper. And to be honest with you, most of them are just as straight. Like you end up with a few that aren't as straight. And, there might be the front wobbles, the back wobbles. You know how I fix that? I just cut that end off.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so I've got pretty darn near straight arrows just by doing that, because I'll sit and I'll spin.
So you're either cutting the front or the back, depending on the inconsistency.
Yep. And if I see it in both sides, I might take half off the front and half off the back. Now you got to do math on that one, but, but it worked. It's worked out pretty well. Like and that's why I've been shooting my 3Ds with when I go shoot 3Ds, and I've been shooting over 300s in the 3Ds. So
nobody's going to complain about that.
No. And I say that not because like, oh, Sean's a great freaking archer, because there's a lot of people that's going to beat me, and I know they are. That's not the point. What the point of the matter is like, you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive shit to still be good. Right. There's too many people that think it's the tool set that makes them great. What makes you great is the time that you put into it to be a good archer yourself. Right. Because I've said it before, I think with actually Jake Mahar, the guy who's running badges and bows, I said, if your fundamentals are good, I could go, and I'm not shitting on bear bows, so I can go pick up your bear, the bear you have, right? Which was a flagship for bear back, several years ago. What is it, the Arena that you have?
I have the Bear Escape. It was,
Escape. Yep.
I can't remember if it was 2017 or 18 flagship. I think it was the 17 because I bought it in 18 at a little bit lower price.
Right. And
But
I'm
I
not
mean, for what it is, it's a smooth bow,
it,
and it's
right.
got a little bit longer axle to axle than my prior bow, which I learned suits me far better than
Yes.
having that shorter axle to axle.
Yes. And we can talk all day about that, but so I guarantee I could take that bow and shoot it almost as good as I can my Matthews. Like
For sure.
and still probably still score 300 plus on 3D rounds. The reason why, once again, I'm not a professional archer. I'm not sitting here tooting my own horn. I'm not trying to be arrogant by saying this. I shoot a lot. Like I shoot in my backyard. I almost shoot every day. And that's what it comes down to is just having the time and dedication to practice the craft, to become good at it. Build
Well,
this.
and you could go back to your experience as a law enforcement officer and someone who had to train a lot in handguns. A lot of people aren't very good at shooting handguns, at least the ones that I know. Um, and everybody wants to tell you, well, you need to get this in this caliber, or you need to get that in that caliber. I've had a lot of backlash from my father-in-law and the gun that my wife shoots. She shoots her gun better than I do. We have the same gun and the same caliber.
Yep.
And again, she shoots it better than I do. He just recently went to take his CCP with a smaller gun and a smaller caliber and realized it was not the gun for him. Picked up a relative gun in the caliber that we both shoot, in a similar style that we both shoot, and found out that, well, maybe he's wrong. So, it's just getting familiar with your gun. I think he could have shot that 380 ACP a lot better if he would have went to the range and put 1,000 rounds through it, and he would have been fine with it.
Right. Absolutely.
But we get back to the point of you have to put the time in to the weapon of choice, or whatever it may be, and put the time in and go shoot, because you're not going to get better.
Very rarely is it the tool that's the problem. And that's the first thing that people blame. I'm a firearms instructor. Very first thing, someone's not hitting the target, I think my sights are off or something's wrong with my gun. The very first thing that I do is I grab the gun, obviously when it's safe to do so, and I shoot the gun myself. Or there's another little trick that I do to where I have them aim and I pull the trigger for them. And lo and behold, the gun's hitting the bullseye. I said, it's not the gun, it's what you're doing.
There's a handful of things that you could be doing that are causing that effect.
And I look at it and said, listen, it's not your fault. Like, we're going to work on it and we're going to make it better, but it's what you're doing. You need to know that it's what you're doing. It's not the gun. It's what you're doing. And you have
Absolutely. And just going through the CCP class that you taught, that we both took, taught me a lot and showed me what I need to look for myself, as to how I shoot.
So, I mean, well, thank you for saying that first and foremost. Like it's, as every now and again, as an instructor, you don't really hear a lot of the feedback, but you do every now and again. But I appreciate, the feedback of that, and that you appreciate
the class. Absolutely. It was very informative. As someone who didn't have experience with handguns, or as much experience in handguns, we went out and shot a lot before the class, but without standing there and filming yourself and reviewing the tape over and over, you really don't see what you're doing, whether you're trigger slapping or anticipating the recoil or the million other things that could be going on. They're not things that would have crossed my mind into it.
No, they're not.
And you did a great job of explaining it and getting down to the nitty gritty.
And even then, like most of the time, you don't even see it anyways. Like if you don't,
these are things that happen with your bow as well. You'll trigger slap, you'll drop your arm, you'll want to look for the shot before you even drop the release.
That's the thing I'm most guilty of. If I start making terrible shots, that's the thing I'm most guilty of right there, is trying to see where the arrow's going.
Your arm because you want to see where that damn arrow's going, man.
Yeah, that's when my shots start going haywire, that's usually what's going on there. And when I center myself back in, and another thing when my shots start going bad is if I start focusing on the pin. Like, get off the pin, look at where you want it to hit, and just pull through your shot. And I'm telling you, like it's almost scary, like how accurate that is. Like, and
it's funny too, because everybody wants to have the argument, bow, all rifle, all this. And it's like, it doesn't matter. We all struggle with the same issue from
Right.
the trigger slap to the target panic, as we were saying a little bit ago.
But there's a lot of resources out there. If you're interested in hearing more about that, like there's a lot of resources out there. Joel Turner, a few others, John Dudley, they all run great YouTube channels. They all have a great program somewhere that'll help you out as long as you're willing to listen and do what they say. I also tell you this, you have to find what's going to work for you, because I know some people, like I'm almost like a full buy-in on the Joel Turner stuff, at least from what I've heard, because he's a firearms instructor. I listen to him talk, and I'm starting to pick up on the things he's saying. And so I kind of have an idea. Like I can't tell you I'm going to be able to teach his class, but I have an idea what he's saying. So I kind of started to implement some of that stuff on my own. My shooting has improved like almost, twofold. Since I started some of the ideology that he throws out there. But what I'm saying is that there's a guy that I shoot with that he's tried to do what I'm doing. He can't do it. Like for whatever reason, he absolutely cannot do it. So he has to find what works for him.
Yeah, different folks, different strokes.
So maybe he needs to listen to like a Kyle Douglas or Tim Gillingham, who are like command shooters or trigger punchers. Like that's what they do. And you can't argue with them, because everyone says, "Oh, trigger punching, you can't, don't punch a trigger. There's gonna be all kinds of issues with that." And for most people, that is correct. But for like the Kyle Douglases and Tim Gillinghams, I don't know if you've ever seen them or heard of them. They win a lot. And to be quite honest with you, when a trigger puncher is on, you will not beat them. Like if they are on, they are on, and they are very precise. But once again, if they do develop
a system developed for them,
if they do develop issues, which most mortal humans do, it's really bad. I'm one of them. Like I've struggled with my own issues of target panic. The buck that you and I tracked that one day, we talked about it in the last episode. That was a target panic thing. I could not, for the life of me, get the pin off of his back. And I was fighting with it, trying to get it down. All of a sudden, I just said, screw it. And I went to jerk down. And at the same time, I pulled the trigger. And that's why the arrow ended up hitting lower than I wanted it to, like way low. And that's why we never recovered that buck. But I had that buck dead to rights, like dead to rights. I had him like it. But now today, doing what I do today, I got a buck sitting at 42 yards, a heart punching. I mean,
for sure.
You just gotta find what works for you.
You do. And I think, I haven't, I guess, publicly announced it, but I'm kind of taking a hiatus from archery myself because of some of the issues that I'm having shooting my bow. Not at close range, but when I start to move back, I've had some mental issues, trigger punching, rushing my shots, not letting my pin float. Like I've just gotten away from the basics, and I think I need to have a total mental reset on that and before I go out with my bow again, because I don't think it's ethical of me to get into that situation with an animal in front of me and I trigger punch and wound the animal, and that's not what anybody wants.
No, and I understand what you're saying there, and that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, is be able to admit that and step away from it. I really do hope that you find out what that mental block is, what it is, you work through it, and you get yourself back into it, because I'm not gonna tell you to give up. Like, don't give up. Oh. Keep, find what it is, fix it, and become better for it. But, until then,
for sure, it's not goodbye. It's just goodbye for now. So, I have other options till then to kind of just work on myself, work on steadiness and readiness, and get, honestly, moving west, it's been a confidence shaker, living in Ohio, being able to tree stand hunt and get as many tags that we could get. It was like, I don't want to say it wasn't hard, because it was still a lot of hard work, but not having the experience that I have out here, I need to maybe put some success under my belt, and then maybe it'll get my confidence level back up and, get my mental attitude back in the right place.
And you just got to find your path, right? Whatever the experience is that, that gets you to where you want to be, you got to find that path. But, so speaking of opportunities or different avenues, let's talk, let's get out of this conversation and let's move on to, the Colorado draw. And speaking of other opportunities, we'll start with you. What tag did you draw this year?
After the public announcement here that we just made, I actually went and bought a muzzle loader. That way I could still hunt September because there is no better time to hunt than September for elk. I was fortunate enough to draw a 24 muzzleloader elk tag. I did put in for a cow elk. I didn't want to try and be greedy and go for a bull, even though I've seen consistently about the same number, at least, the couple years I've been here between bulls and cows. I thought I had another plan in mind, but dropping the archery tag as I did, I'm just going to stick with the cow muzzleloader and then maybe over the counter rolls around, grab myself an over the counter rifle tag for a bull.
There you go. So you were successful on the muzzleloader, huh?
I was successful. So now we've got some work to do there because I know very little about that. It's been a long time since I've shot one. And the one I used to use wasn't even mine. And not to mention, there's some wonky laws in Colorado around muzzleloaders. You can't use pelletized powder.
Yep.
You can't use a scope, among a few other things. So it's all open sights, and I have to use granule powder. So I need to get my measurements dialed and see what this CVA Optima is going to eat well.
There you go. I mean, yeah, it sounds like you got some work to do, and
it's fun, man. It's exciting.
It is fun.
Again, something new. It gives me an opportunity to reach out a little farther than I have with the bow. And not to say I didn't have opportunity with the bow last year, because I did, and I managed to blow them. So not to say I won't blow them with this, but maybe it's that little confidence thing that'll help me come over that hump and finally get an elk on the ground. And speaking of elk, I think you got something in the mail too coming.
Yeah, I will. $800 and some later, I got myself an archery elk tag for Colorado. So
I wouldn't expect to get any cheaper, unfortunately.
No, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. I understand my place as a non-resident hunter, and I'm not complaining. Because I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm going to spend that money. This is a vacation for me, and I'd rather spend the money doing this than I would sitting on a beach resort somewhere, not doing anything. And that's just my personality type. So nothing wrong with either one of those two. But like I said, it's my personality type. I'd rather, if I'm going to spend the money on vacation, I'd rather do it this way anyways, even if I don't come home with anything. But so yeah, I do have an archery elk tag. So that means I'm going to be coming out to Colorado in September, which means you and I have some planning, some final planning to work out.
Absolutely.
Because I know the wife is wanting to come out with me this year, which, she's going to come out for like a few days and then fly back home, which I think our original plan we kind of discussed before. And I'm not going to go through the details because I'm not going to let you know when I'm not going to be home. So guys, forget, you ain't going to hear that. But
it's the joint with two goober 16-year-olds just hanging out in the room video gaming.
Right. But anyways, so yeah, she's going to come out and hang out because, obviously she's your cousin and she hasn't seen you guys in a while and would like to hang out with you guys, see you. And I think she's jonesing for some of Emily's gluten-free cupcakes. And
who isn't?
I know, right? Because those are good. Like her gluten-free cupcakes are better than most people's regular cupcakes. I'm just going to say it right now. They're pretty darn good.
Which is a testament to a regular cupcakes at that.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah, I at least, I at least gained 5 pounds leaving your guys' house from the baking that your wife's able to do because it's so freaking good.
Was it that or just all the storage from the mountain house?
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. But anyways, so yeah, I do have a tag and I'm looking forward to it. So you and I do have some final plans we need to put together.
Yep. And that shouldn't be an issue. I don't think we'll have any trouble getting at least something squared away, whether it be me hunting with you a couple days or getting you some waypoints to hunt till I can get back out with you or vice versa. And I think it'll be a great experience either direction it goes. And we're into this tag draw situation, blah, blah, blah. We do have a September rifle bear tag for this unit. And usually there are quite a few left over. So that's going to be my quote unquote scouting game plan, is for the secondary draw to hopefully, fingers crossed, pick up that early rifle bear tag. That way, even if I see one with my muzzle loader, I'm still legal to and do work.
Hey, whatever works. Once again, I'm not against bear hunting. I go for it, do it. I don't do it because I don't know if I'd eat it. And I need to find somebody who bear hunts, who cooks the meat and let me try it to see if I would eat it. And if I love it, I'm probably going to start bear hunting. But
Well, fingers crossed, by the time you get out here this year, I can maybe, if I get the tag, if I'm lucky enough, get the tag and get one on the ground and we can experience it together.
Now, I've heard mountain lion's good.
Oh man, I've heard it is just like a little more leaner pork and very, very good meat.
Yeah, I've never had it yet. The only issue, so people, if you go after the predatory style animals, mountain lions, bear, wolf, you're not going to be able to do your typical like medium rare steak. Like,
no,
don't do that. Because there's a chance you're on up with like trichinosis, things like that. So you're going to have to cook it a little bit more than what you would like an elk or a mule deer or your typical beef, or even like
even on that note,
pork.
If you think about it on that note, think about your rabbits too. You might want to cook them a little past what you normally would other things too, because of some of the things that they can carry.
Yeah, like what is it? Like Harris disease? What's that called?
Oh, I was gonna say it, and I keep dropping the name and wanting to call it trichinosis, and that's not it.
No, yeah, there's some disease that rodents carry, and I forget what it's called. And it's not the plague. It's not the plague.
From
people.
Fleas. It moves. Yeah, it's passed through fleas. It's not the plague.
Yeah,
and of course, this would be the time I dropped the ball. Oh, tularemia, nailed it. Tularemia. Okay. Yeah, I knew it started with a T, and trichinosis tripped me up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
say that 4 times fast.
Didn't mean to screw you up on that one.
No.
So I have some ideas and some stuff that I'm going to do here at the house to kind of prep myself to head out to Colorado. And we're sitting at about an hour and 10 minutes, which I told you off air that we will hit an hour. It's going to happen.
We always do.
Between the two of us. So hear me out on this. So I'm going to build, Colorado, public lands, blowdowns. You're going to come across them, right? And so I'm trying to come up with something to kind of help me like build my mobility up, where it's not just the straight like step up, but it's also like the up and then rotate my hips out to the outside and step over something, right?
What really helps that? I can already help you with that problem.
What's that?
Get your pack on, load your pack down as heavy as you can, and start doing lunges.
Okay, so I hear that, and I hear what you say there. I've not been diagnosed with anything yet, but there's something going on with one of my knees where lunges aren't the best thing for me.
That's called old age.
It might be. Just because I'm 40 doesn't mean I'm old yet, because there's people younger than me, Josh, who has to wear bifocals and I don't yet. So
I think I'd take the bifocals over bad knees.
Right. And I think I'm like destined for bad knees anyways. I never played football or anything, but like, I think I'm destined for bad knees. But so I don't do like lunges. I could do step ups. I can do things like that. That doesn't, like an actual true lunge, I can't do. So follow me down this rabbit hole real quick though. So what I wanted to do was just take some like extra PVC pipe I have, or go buy some, whatever. And I want to build like a little station to where like, you build like your square base. And then, it's going to be more like a rectangle. So I want a little bit of length to it. And then I'm going to build it up to where, using joints and unions, like, couplings, to where I can build it higher if I need to as I progress, but to where there's a straight bar across the top that I have to step up and over with both legs. Right. And then while I get to that other side, maybe like do a burpee and then come back across the other side. So I'm actually like rotating that, getting that motion down. So I'm not like, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to let you finish, but I was going to say, okay. Do you have a chainsaw?
Well, yeah.
Do you have some timber that you just don't like looking at?
Well, actually, I've got some that's
down. You see where I'm going with it?
I've got some that's down right now. I mean,
that might even be the better option. Real feel.
Yeah. But I figured I'd work on that, like at least something to kind of get my hips rotating that way, or at least that that motion. And obviously,
all joking aside, anything that helps. I mean, that stuff sucks.
Yeah,
It's
and
terrible.
again, I'm gonna start like I think I'm gonna build like a box I can like step up on or something like that here. I got a lot of scrap wood from latest from several projects that I might just build like a box I can do step ups on. I mean, we got a gym that I got membership to. Well, the
Yeah,
wife
and
got
I'm sure they have them 24, 36, and so on.
right. The wife got membership to it, so I need to start going over there. It's just, it's just
Now, would that be barbells?
yeah, it is.
Man, I when we were back there, I loved that gym. They had a great setup. It was a great environment. You know, nobody's staring at you like, "What's the fat ass doing in the gym?" It was really fun going there.
Yeah, they do have a good setup. I think they've expanded since you've been here too. So
Oh, more than likely, it's been oh well today it's been 4 years. We actually got here May 31st at 9 p.m. and yeah, it's been 4 years now. It's crazy.
it's I can't believe it's been 4 years already.
Flying by.
So, anyways, yeah. So both of us we have elk we have elk tags in hand. I did not put in for any deer tags this year. I just put in for a point, which gives me 2 points now in the great state of Colorado for mule deer because I am a diehard bow hunter, but I'm sitting on a 7mm rim mag that I bought to take hunting. So eventually I am going to put in for a rifle tag for deer. Speaking of rifle tags, were you successful with your deer tag?
I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm just kidding. You know, they opened a new season in this unit. They opened a fourth season, which means, from what I've understood from going to a few of the Parks and Wildlife meetings, they pulled some tags from second season and potentially third season to build this new season, which is the fourth season tag, which, is with this structure that's currently in place is a coveted tag for any deer unit because you're dead nuts and rut.
Yep.
You start to come into it in third season, and from what I've heard, I haven't got the fortunate event to experience it yet, but fourth season it's early November for Ohio.
Okay.
And it's rut, it's grunt, it's on. The deer are just stupid. I was feeling pretty shitty about it for a little bit. I already had a point in the unit that we're in that typically draws the tag in second or third season. Like, chances are you are getting that tag. After talking to some other folks in the area that had applied for the same thing, they had 3+ points. Well, I can't say plus, but at the minimum had 3 points and did not draw that tag either. So it was kind of a shock, especially for a new season. So people are dumping points on that tag. And I'm assuming because of it being exactly where it is. And this might be the last year for a little while that's where it is because Parks and Wildlife Commission is going to be announcing either a new season structure or keeping this season structure sometime here in June.
Well, I mean, I know you had some very colorful words that you were describing everything, describing your frustrations with yesterday. Or what? Yeah, draws came out. No, draws came out Wednesday, right?
I think. Well, okay. So we had Memorial Day Monday,
Yep.
and then Bear and some other things came out Tuesday. So yes, it would have
Yep.
been
Yep.
Wednesday that deer and elk unfolded.
Yeah, so it wasn't yesterday; it was Wednesday. That you had some very colorful words that you were using to describe your frustrations with the entire thing. But we don't have to relive those moments. I understand the frustrations with it. Especially with
And I can't complain too awful much. I haven't been out here that long, and this is the first time I've experienced those frustrations. And as the years go on and predators, take over, populations go down, winter kill happens, those things are going to continue to happen. We're going to have good years. We're going to have bad years. I have yet to hunt pronghorn. All I've done so far is put in for points for pronghorn. But some of my coworkers religiously hunt pronghorn, and with the kill in the northwest corner from the previous winter, it has pushed. It is well. We'll start here. It has depleted tag numbers over there, and has pushed a lot of those guys into regions that typically took 1 to 2 points to get an antelope tag for, and now the point creep has hit there because the other region is no longer a viable option at the moment.
yes, and that's an unfortunate thing that happens because that was one of the things I was thinking of too. Like, because there was a pretty good winter kill up there in Colorado. up there in that northwest part, and they talked about it a lot in their brochure this year, and
Absolutely.
the reduction
It
of tags.
hammered numbers.
Yeah, and that's just the part. That's just the natural cycle. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and it wasn't just pronghorn; it was elk, it was deer. It was that entire population of big game species, and it's unfortunate, but it's part of being in the environment, living in the wild.
it happens. I mean, it's nothing for an EHD breakout to happen, in these regions here and wipe out a herd. So, which I'm pretty sure that's what happened to Harrison County not too long ago. They got hit with EHD. No one's actually, I've never really heard anything official on it, but I haven't really dug a lot, but I've heard unofficially from a lot of people who live out there that we're finding, a lot of dead deer. This is a couple years ago, right? So, it then affects the numbers, right? And then if your wildlife, people are on top of it, doing the right thing, they have to reduce the number of tags, right? So it's about keeping
using the science to benefit the wildlife. That way it's there for tomorrow.
Exactly. And that's exactly why they should be doing their jobs, and exactly why we should leave them to do their jobs and stay out of it until they're not doing their jobs. And then of course, then someone has to step in, but
leading back to a prior conversation about 30 minutes ago.
But trust me, they're there for a reason. Like the most of these, you don't get involved in wildlife biology if you hate wildlife. Like it's just not how that goes. But anyways, long story short, but yes, they do have to reduce those number of tags because it has to remain as a sustainable resource up there. The goal is management, right? They have to make decisions, that are not favorable in a lot of instances because it's about management of the resource, so that the resource is there and we don't over deplete it.
And one of the biggest examples that we can go back to in Ohio and seemingly a lot of the eastern regions dropping turkey tag allocations for the spring. The eastern turkey populations have just dumped. I mean, taken a huge fall over the last few years.
Right. And that's a recent one. But, I just got done listening to the Hunter podcast, and they had the biologist from Ohio on there. And he's talking about, like, you go back to like 1904 or so, there were no deer. The deer were gone. Like we had eradicated the deer in Ohio. And so if you look at it this way, we're 124 years later, right? Or 120 years later. And now they're telling us, hey, listen, we need to shoot a lot more deer. That just goes to show you, like, number one, like, when wildlife agencies are allowed to do what they need to do, they are going to manage. They're going to manage, and it's going to happen. It's going to bring things back. And I guarantee you that it was sportsmen and women that were at the forefront of most of that brought that resource, wildlife, those white-tailed deer back into Ohio. They funded it.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing in Colorado right now, like, or anywhere now in the western part of this country that has like an actual population of mountain lions. Like, if you listen to anybody talk about it, it's been since we've been hunting them that their populations have not decreased, but they have increased. How does that happen? If we're out there on the landscape and we're taking animals from the landscape, and it's such a bad thing that we're doing, then why is there more now than there ever has been?
Everybody wants to talk about sustainability, and hunters help produce sustainable numbers
because
we're willing to live with that give and take. That way it's there for the next generation.
We want it to be there, right? We are dumping money into making sure that resource is there. And sometimes we have to concede, like we are in Ohio right now when it comes to like turkey numbers. It happens. It's part of the natural progression. There are going to be lean years and there's going to be very, very, very stout years. But at the same time, like it's an ebb and flow. Trust me, it's not the hunters that are the problem. It's never been. The true ethical hunters, they've never been the problem. Ever. But I digress.
We tend to.
Right? Anything else we need to talk about, my friend?
Other than off air, at some point we'll get that game plan together.
Right.
If anybody out there has been putting in for draws anywhere else, shoot us comments on the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, wherever else you can find us. Apparently not Go Wild anymore from the sounds of it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll touch that real quick. So yeah, if you knew anything about the Go Wild social media app, I kind of feel bad for them because it was a great idea. It's so basically, listen, you go on, let's just put it this way. You go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on any other social media account, and you start posting, our lifestyle, what we do. We're hunters, which involves the harvesting of animals, the killing of animals. Eventually you get shadow banned. Right now, Montana Knife Company is being shadow banned because they're posting pictures of their knives, not doing anything, just posting pictures of their knives, and they get shadow banned. That's what you deal with. That's what you deal with the big social media accounts, right? You want to talk about oppression. You want to talk about violating your First Amendment rights and stuff. Although technically they're a private organization, I get it. That's supposed to protect you from the government. But you want to talk about censorship? You don't like censorship? They're doing it right now. They're doing
Man,
it.
and it's hard for me because, as you were saying earlier, the libertarian side of me, man, the libertarian side of me doesn't like the government telling you what you can and can't do as a private organization,
I like
whether
it.
I like the message you're promoting or not. That's why Go Wild came around. That's why some of those other social media apps come around. And it's unfortunate that they don't take off the same way, but I think it's also an oversaturation of I've got so much shit on my phone already. Like I don't want to juggle all this shit regardless. And it's a shame. It sucks because you have an organization of people who are, like you said, censoring us and putting us down. But again, that's the benefit of private industry.
It is.
Um, and I don't want more government at all. And I don't want to push for more government,
I don't think anybody does.
especially in an instance like private industry. Um, and I don't have the fix for it. But it's hard to, especially a niche group that already has small numbers. It's hard to survive in that world.
Right. But the idea they had was, so obviously it's social media account, but on top of that, like there's rewards that you got for their shop. Like, so not only were they a social media platform, they're also like their own like outfitter business, right? You could buy, you could get stuff from them. You get targets, you can get arrows, basically like, Bass Pro Shops, right? But they had a
Well,
social
even
media.
at that, like if you just posted enough, they would send you free sticker packs.
Oh, you get that, or you get discounts in their stores, like
Yeah,
huge discounts, like great
super
discounts,
cool.
right? But I don't know. They've never come out to say exactly why they went under. They're keeping it under the wraps. It sounds like they're trying to find a way to resurrect it. So hopefully it comes back in the future. Because I made some pretty good friends on the Go Wild app, and one of them was talking to me about going to TAC in Seven Springs in Pennsylvania, which is going on right now. It is just so you guys know, it's February. I'm sorry, February. It is Friday, May 31st. So we're getting ready to go into June, and TAC in Seven Springs is day number 2 right now. Should be, and he was asking if I was going to go there, and that was the only communication him and I had was through Go Wild. So I don't. If you listen, no, I'm not coming. But
Have fun. I'm not there.
but it's a shame to see it go. I know there's quite a few users that were on there, because I know some of the guys, especially like the creators and stuff, they had like 20,000 people that were following them, just on Go Wild. So I know there was people on there, and it's I don't know, but once again, it's a very, and I don't want to say what the fallacy of it is, other than the fact that you have a bunch of people that are doing the same thing on there. And so how many people is that industry who's sponsoring, that's doing the ads and stuff, really reaching? You know, are they are they really getting the benefit that they need
Right.
by spending that money there? I don't know. Like, I'm not going to speculate. I hope it comes back, or something like it comes back, because it was a fun time, and they didn't censor you. Matter of fact, if you got censored, it's because you're making fun of somebody because they shot a deer you wouldn't have, which is the exact opposite of what you get at Instagram, right?
Absolutely. Which is exactly what we're trying to promote is, chase your experience.
Yeah,
Quit with the bullshit, quit making fun of people. Everybody gets their finite time on this earth and they're going to use it how they see fit. And we're all sportsmen and women. We all chase success. and it doesn't matter what form success is in your mind.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Anything else good for the order?
I'm all tapped out, my friend.
Like I said, it doesn't take much for us to get over an hour when we start talking. We're about an hour and a half in. I don't really have anything else. Like Sam said, if you want to follow us along, follow us on Instagram. That's Country Fried Outdoor, spelled with a K. We're also on YouTube. That's Country Fried Outdoor Productions, once again spelled with a K. If you find us on Facebook, don't worry about it because no one's going to respond to you. So just find us on Instagram, YouTube. If you find us on Facebook, you can join us there, but there's not a lot of activity on the Facebook page. I'll be honest with you. Outside of that, obviously you can check us out on the podcast, this podcast right here. We would appreciate if you guys would take the time to give us a rating or a review and also some comments on the platform that you're listening to this at, because it's going to be available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and also Amazon. So I don't know if you knew that I added it to iHeartRadio not too long ago. So it's on that.
I didn't.
It's on that platform too.
All the platforms almost.
Yeah. So we're on all the major ones. You know, I really consider the major ones being Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. Seems to be the three major ones. So we're on all three of those platforms. The podcast is, we do videos as well, not with the podcast, but we do produce videos here and there. We're not as regular with the videos as we are the podcast, but check it out on YouTube, leave us a rating, join us, subscribe, follow, whatever it is you have to do. Participate in the polls on Spotify. I do put up some pretty cool polls for each episode that kind of relates to the episode itself. So participate in those and just have a good time. Folks, we really do appreciate you spending the last hour and a half with us, right? We understand your time is very valuable to you, and we appreciate that you've taken that time to sit and listen to us. Whether it's a full hour and a half, or if you've done it in sections, doesn't matter. We appreciate you spent that time with us. With that being said, until our experiences cross paths again, I hope that you have the courage to fail, but yet have the humility to learn. And as always, I hope you stay safe out there. And God bless you. Thank you for listening to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. Before you go, don't forget to leave us a review and follow the show on the podcast platform of your choice. Are you hungry for more Country Fried Outdoors? Then follow us on Instagram at Country Fried Outdoors, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Country Fried Outdoor Productions.